Hey there, gang. I know you're all going to be sick of me talking about my brother Seth Glass pretty soon, but I had to make one more video because I really feel like, first of all, I'm having a real tough time dealing with this. I mean, it was unexpected, and you know, Seth is one of my oldest friends. I mean, I only have a handful, but he and I have stayed in touch all these years and written songs together and played together, and we were just bonded in a very special way. There was like an unspoken thing. So for him to pass so suddenly when he wasn't sick and I didn't have any idea of what was going on is shocking. So please forgive me. But more importantly, I want you to check out his music because Seth was everything I aspired to be. Like, I could never be as great as him. I mean, all of his songs were super inventive and original and unique and special, and they all like super soulful and deep. I mean, they were incredible. He taught me so much. I became a better songwriter because of Seth, from knowing him all these years. And I want you to check out his music wherever you can. I'm putting up this playlist below of the songs that he and I recorded 18 years ago when he came and visited me here in Nashville. And the idea was just, you know, Seth, listen, people get blown away when they hear you. And this is true. No matter where in the world I went and I played people Seth's music, they were like, oh my God, who is this guy? So I was like, look, what you need to do is just play like you're playing a concert, just you and your guitar. Because Seth didn't need pedals, Seth didn't need a band, he just needed his voice and his guitar, and he would just like mesmerize people. So check out that playlist below. I'll be adding stuff to it as I go along when I can deal with the emotions of mastering the songs because it's pretty intense. But Seth taught me a lot, like I said, and he touched everyone who ever heard him play. He was a very spiritual guy. I mean, like Seth was the first person who I ever saw play a Loudon guitar. Like, no kidding, like over 30 years ago. Like I hadn't even seen Richard Thompson playing a Loudon yet. He was like the first person, and I own a Loudon, the same model. Like the headstock means anything. But this is mine, which is the same model that Seth had. And Seth did things with standard tuning that I've never heard anybody else do. And that pushed me as a guitar player. It pushed me as a writer. When you listen to this playlist, listen to what he's doing in standard tuning. Like, it's phenomenal. So Seth was the first person I saw play a Loudon. First time I heard a Loudon. Now I own a Loudon, all because of Seth. Got a funny story to tell you though. We went to Italy on tour and we went through the whole tour and they would stuff us silly before every show. It was insane. They would like give us these 15-course meals and it was amazing. Don't get me wrong. You haven't had Italian food until you've had it in Italy, and I'm half Italian. But just to get on stage after being stuffed like that was crazy. And, you know, Seth went along the whole time. And then like about 2 days from the end of the tour, he said to me, hey man, you know, could you ask them to not put any meat in it tonight for the food? Like, and we just have no meat. And I'm like, no meat? And he's like, yeah, you know, I'm trying to be a good Jew here, because Seth was really serious about his faith. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. So I went up to the chef and we went in, we got into the venue, we unloaded, we set up, and I went up to the chef and I said, hey, no meat tonight. And he's like, no meat? And I'm like, yeah, just from my buddy. And he's like, oh, is he a vegetarian? And I went, yeah, that's it. He's a vegetarian. Anyway, when we actually got the meal, Seth's just like looking at me like this. He's eating. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, I'm like, they didn't put meat in it, did they? And he goes, well, bacon. I'm like, what are you talking about? They had put pancetta in the sauce. They couldn't help themselves. Italians, we can't help ourselves. So it was just like the funniest moment. We asked for no meat and there's still bacon, which, you know, bacon. But if you're an Orthodox Jew, not so great. But he had a great sense of humor about the whole thing. And another thing on that tour is, not very many of my friends knew this and maybe still don't know it, but my Norwegian grandmother was Jewish, right? So nobody knew growing up. It's something I found out later. And, Seth was like, oh, wow, okay, well, that's really cool. And there was like 900 Norwegian Jews before World War II, and I think only 38 came back. The majority of Norwegian Jews were sent to Auschwitz, So anyway, he's like, oh my God, your grandmother was Jewish. And I'm like, yeah, but my mother's Catholic, so we don't practice. He's like, doesn't matter. And we went to a bookstore immediately and he bought me a book, The Living Torah, which is just like this massive tome all about Judaism. And he went through it like chapter by chapter, explaining everything to me. And I was thrilled. I thought this was lovely and wonderful of him. And so that was another bond that we had together. So I'm missing Seth. I will probably miss him for the rest of my days because we were that close and we were that connected. I mean, we wrote songs together. I don't know. It's not going to be the same. I'm sure you've all had something like this in your life, but check out Seth's music. It's unbelievable. It's phenomenal. It's special, and I think you'll really dig it. So anyway, thanks for letting me ramble on. I won't say any more, but for a while.